Well, good morning, folks. It's the real Captain Kirk here. It is the 8th of March, 2021. Start off with a recap here of last week, week ending 6 March. Again, the first part of March here. Mean temperatures versus last year on a retail calendar. So this is a year-over-year map, how our retail customers like to look at the weather. Here in the U.S., a little bit cooler, 2.8 degrees cooler than last year, ninth warmest in 36 years. So still above average national temperatures. Minus 2% drier than last year, driest in 3, 17th driest, so just a tad below average. And snowfall way down, 58% less than last year, least in 21 years, and third least in 36 years. So not much snow here. So a mild start here across the U.S. Canada about a degree and a half cooler than last year, still above average. Europe 3.6 degrees, coolest in 3 years. Russia continues to be the cold spot, 10.9 degrees colder than last year, coldest in 3. China a little bit cooler, cooler in 3 years. Australia down under continue to have they had a very cool summer, 1.3 degrees cooler. Making it the coolest in 18 years down under. India about 2.4 degrees, warmest in 5 years. And Brazil also some cooler trends, coldest in 25 years. Maps inset left are again the trends versus average. Looking at the snow cover here this morning across the U.S., only about 18%. Normal this time of year would be about 30%, so we're about the least in 5 years. Have to go back to 2016 to see this least amount of snow. So almost near lows here for the last 20-some years. Last year was also pretty low, about 20%, and the peak was a few years back in 2019 when almost half the country still had snow on the ground. Looking at the snowfall season to date chart left, again, gone below average again here. So we're still 7% more than last year's way below average season. This year we're trending about 4% below average. Now this chart left is 1 September through 7 March. Chart right is actually the first week of March here. Again, way below average. We can have some very snowy Marches, but that's not been the case here really so far this year. 1 to 7 March, again, 74% less than last year, 93% below average, so least in 29 years here to start out March. We're going to add a little bit to this here in the week ahead, but again, a pretty slow start to March's snowfall. The other thing that's off to a very slow start here year to date, again, is the least rainfall in 9 years. So chart bottom here shows, again, we haven't seen this least amount of snow across the U.S., rainfall actually across the U.S. here, and again, going back to 2012. So map left is rainfall last year versus average. So again, very, very wet across the south from Texas into the southeast. And this year, the really wet spots really been just the immediate southeast coast and Kentucky and parts of the Intermountain Northwest. But again, overall, 13% below average rainfall here to start the year, 21% less than last year for the U.S. overall. Looking at this week, again, we have a pretty decent storm system coming out of the Rockies here, so they're going to be the cold, snowy spot here this week. While it's very, very warm spring, we're going to have some probably near 70-degree temperatures here in the east. Our first 70s potential here are 360's headquarters. Overall, U.S. about a degree, 0.1 degrees cooler than last year, 7th warmest in 36 years, so above average temperatures. Very, very warm, obviously, in the central U.S. and spilling into the east. Rainfall is looks like a lot, but it's still the driest in 3, 13th least in 36 years, so below average. Very, very heavy, though, there in the Oklahoma, south central U.S. Snowfall is 30% more than LY, and that makes still the 12th least in 36 years, so below average. But don't tell folks in Colorado. They're going to be kind of ground zero here for some very, very heavy snow, even into the Denver area here this week. Don't forget spring forward here this weekend. Hard to believe already, but daylight saving time starts 14 March. Again, spring forward from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., so you'll lose an hour of sleep here. Looking at next week, getting into spring here, 15 through 21 March. The weather map's not going to feel much like spring here, about 4 degrees cooler than last year, coldest in 8 years, 9th coldest in 36 years, almost wall-to-wall below average temperatures across the U.S. other than maybe Florida and maybe the extreme plains here. Wettest in 9 years, 8th wettest in 36 years, above average. So again, that big storm coming out of the Rockies will head to the east. Some models are hinting at that we could have some snow here in the northeast, even the coastal northeast. We'll see about that early next week. Snowfall, again, right now at this stage is looked to be about 72% less than last year and 4th least in 36 years, so below average on the snowfall front. Again, don't forget, spring arrives according to the sun here 20 March, Saturday at 5:37 in the morning here on the East Coast. So again, if you're looking forward to that, again, the weather may not cooperate, but at least it will officially be spring. Look at the world aggregate here. Again, this is just the 2 weeks aggregated to overall, 8 through 21 March. Again, a little misleading in the U.S. here. Again, we're going to start off very, very warm, much above average, near record warm this week, and then cooling off pretty dramatically next week. Still remains very, very cold across Siberia and Russia, and Europe's kind of a mixed bag of cool and pretty much near average. The real hot spot's going to be there in China and India. Again, extremely warm conditions there. Precip maps versus average are inset left there. So with that, folks, we hope you have a great week, and we will be back here this time next week.